Welcome to This Is My Story, a podcast dedicated to sharing your story and how God has helped you take next steps in your journey of faith. Before we get into today's story, we want to give you a quick heads up that today's story mentions topics that may not be appropriate for younger listeners. The main topic of today's story is abortion and begins with very brief mentions of sexual abuse. But thankfully, it ends with a beautiful example of God's redemption and grace. Now, let's jump into today's story. So for today, I am here with a very dear tribe member of Victory Church, Joyce, and I am so excited to just have a conversation with her just about some trials that she went through in her life. And Joyce had a time in her life where she had a very dark secret that she didn't know that she'd ever be able to overcome, ever share with anybody. But now, through God's mighty works, Joyce is delivered and she's healed from that hurt and that pain of the past. And today, Joyce is here to share that with us. Joyce, we are so happy to have you with us here today.
Hey, yeah, well, I'll tell you, I feel so blessed to be sitting here and having this conversation with you. The Lord had taken me on quite a journey. And there was one specific verse that a pastor here 3 years ago, actually, had said, and it was Romans 8:1. Therefore, there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. And it was sermons on God is greater. And that week, it was on giants. And I had a giant that was in my life from at least 39 years ago. Wow. And I clung to that verse. I don't remember much of the rest of the service, but that verse took me on a journey.
That's awesome.
Yes.
We're excited to hear about that journey of just where the Lord has brought you from. So let's start. Before you got to that time period in your life, Joyce. Mm-hmm. What was it like growing up? What was your childhood kind of like?
All right. My parents were actually church planners in Lancaster, and so we went to church a lot. And so, I learned the Bible stories and knew that Jesus loves me. And during that time, there was a dark area in my life, which no one knew about, just me. And I was abused sexually from a friend of my dad's. He was his hunting buddy. And I was 8 and I was 9 and I stopped it at age 10. And it still leaves you with a dirty feeling. You feel that you're worthless even at that young of an age because you know it's not right. And you know it deep down inside. And later on that year, when I was 10, I was at a Maranatha concert at Martin Island, and the gospel was presented very clearly that we are separated from God, and that in order to have that relationship restored, there was one perfect person and human and God himself. And it was Jesus Christ who came and he died on the cross for my sin, and that he was resurrected, and accepting him brought that unity with you and God back together. And there was a little picture I remember with Jesus sitting in a chair in a crown, and that was that he took over your spot in your life, which he did. And honestly, I was baptized like 6 months later. I went into youth group when it was possible, Youth for Christ, and our youth group at our church. But around, I'd say high school into 11th, 12th grade, I'll say it just sucks sometimes, those years and things that are spoken to you from your so-called friends. And already having that self-hatred and feeling dirty, it was very simple for me to start feeling unloved and just starting to walk away from God, which is what happened. And trying to find love with some alcohol, just those temptations that go on. And
is this something? So at this point, your parents are still church planters.
We're established in Lancaster.
Yeah. So is this something they knew was going on, or is this something?
No, I portrayed myself as a very good Christian follower follower of God. So they were clueless to what was going on. And anyway, I did graduate from high school and got into nursing school at St. Joe's. It's the 3-year program, so I was becoming a registered nurse. And it was the summer. I had turned 18 and was in a relationship with a guy, and it was the first time that we had sex. And when I saw the power that I had over him because we had sex, his demeanor towards me had changed, and I felt, oh, this is true love. This is love, and this is something I can easily do.
Yeah.
And what happened is it then really tossed me into a whirlwind where I became very promiscuous very fast, and I was totally away from God. I was living my own life the way I wanted to, and I was my own God, small g, and making those own, decisions that.
And at this point, are you still putting on this facade that you're this good Christian girl, or at this point, are you just?
I was totally had left it, and my parents, they worried about me, and I know I caused them a lot of sleepless nights, but it was all about me at that time. It was all about me. And it was at age 19, the month of March, I was with someone else, and in my OB rotation, which is obstetrics in nursing school, I give myself a pregnancy test, and I find out that I'm pregnant. And with the men I was running around with at the time, there was no future. So my mind was made up pretty easily. And when I went and made the appointment, there was one day available. In nursing school, I was at St. Joe's, which is a Catholic school. They had the day that they had off in April was Good Friday.
Okay.
And that is where not only, well, I'll go on. So going up to the facility, I had already made up my mind that it had to be done quickly because in my head I could justify it that a child with at 5 weeks didn't actually have an audible heartbeat. And there's I knew everything about the baby.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I just made it into a thing and had the procedure done. And as the procedure was going on, I'm there talking to God, saying, forgive me, Father, and making bargains with him. And then, talking to Christ, because this is the day that earlier, less than 2,000 years, he was on the cross dying for my sins. And Lord, again, forgive me. And before my conversation was done with him, the nurse who was there or the technician said, hey, you're all done. You're going to be a great nurse. And she said, now just go ahead and go on with life. This part is done. You don't have to worry about it anymore. And, you walk out the door and it's like, I'm like, wait, what did I just do? And that shame, the guilt, the heaviness that's on your soul, and the sorrow, it was immediate, and it is something that it causes you, and it's hard to describe, but you don't breathe like you used to. You don't live like you used to, and it was a very very dark time in my life, that decision, and I had no idea it was going to end up like that at all.
Wow. So this happens. What did you do next? Do you tell people? Like, what kind of mental space were you in after this?
After this was done, I did a lot of soul searching within myself, and the one thing I had said, I'm settling down. I can't do this again. And so the promiscuity, whatever the word, it stopped.
Yeah.
It stopped. And I ended up, my husband, who I have now, he knew about it because he was a dear friend at the time. And so we started dating, and eventually we're actually celebrating our 40th anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So, I mean, he was, he walked along me during most of this journey.
Yeah.
But I definitely, like, tried to live a more holy life.
Yeah.
And I, did soul searching, and I'm like, Lord, I do want to change. And that was one aspect that I definitely did.
Yeah.
But still the guilt that I felt, and the shame that I have felt, and the self-hatred that I had for me, that I started kind of boxing up. And along with that, building layers and layers, because you can't function that way.
Yeah.
So
at this point, your now husband, he's been in the picture, so he's been a dear friend of yours.
yes.
How do you have that conversation with him? How did that come about? Were you guys in a relationship at that time? How did it come about that he's somebody you were able to confide in?
Yeah, we were very close friends. We had actually dated a little bit before, just briefly. And he was very understanding and it was non-judgmental about it. And so that was pretty easy for us to face it forward. But I will say it was till by the time we got married, into like the first year or something, I had closed myself down to sharing the pain that I had. So at the beginning, it was a good thing, but the shame it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
And the sorrow you feel, it doesn't go away.
Yeah.
And that's where I started boxing it up and not sharing it. And I was going to the grave with this. No one else was going to know. And this is, I want to say also, with the abuse that I had, and my choice to do this is I really felt that anything happens that's bad, I deserve it. And that is just, I had so much hatred for who I was. And that is where I really feel Satan goes into those wounds that you have and starts with the lies. And the lies of having an abortion, that is all true. But I did ask for forgiveness. And the guilt, though, still stayed.
Yeah.
And he was there anytime I wanted to even think about talking to someone. The word hypocrite, always kept coming up. And I just locked everything up.
Yeah.
And believed those lies, and just lived in torment.
Yeah.
And most people didn't even know it.
Yeah. So at this point, you said you asked for forgiveness. Have you put your faith back into Jesus at this point in your life? Or is this something that you're like, I know I'm supposed to ask for forgiveness, so I am, but there's really no life change, and then you're allowing the voice of the enemy to just go into your mind and tell you these lies about yourself?
Well, I'll be honest. When I did ask for forgiveness, but I think I was still condemning myself, and never really felt forgiveness, because that comes later.
Yeah.
I didn't accept his forgiveness, is how I'll put it. It's something that, and that's part of Satan lies, where I didn't feel worthy of it. And I wear this little penny thing that says worthy, because it's a reminder to me that I am worthy of his love and his grace and mercy. And so I know I asked for forgiveness, but I did not accept it.
Yeah.
And that is, so I can't say I ever moved past the abortion.
Yeah.
And that's something that I just stored within myself.
Yeah.
And that, again, that hatred, that shame, and the guilt, it's numbing. You get to the point where you don't want to deal with things. And I could live my life on the outside without anybody really knowing what was internally going on within me.
Yep.
So
you're at this point in your life where you've asked for forgiveness, but you're still really struggling with it. What were some things that you had done then to try to make yourself feel better about that situation then?
Yeah. So after my husband and I got married, circumstances took us out to Cincinnati, and I was a registered nurse by now. And the job that I took was working with NICU children. It's not anything I would ever see myself doing, but that is something I did. And being around little peanuts that weigh a pound or two in your hand, whether it was me trying to earn points with God or if God was using it to heal me, but I took care of those little kiddos like they were my own. And it was a remembrance there of the baby that I gave up. And so each one of those little peanuts was so special to me. Yeah. And I took wonderful care of each one of them and the parents. So that is one thing. Secondly, when we came back, my kids, I did everything possible as a parent. We all make mistakes, but I really gave it my all with them and was around a lot. I worked very part-time or none at all. And I did Awana. I did church things. But still it wasn't, I still had that pain. Yeah. And that numbing and that those feelings of heavy weights on me. I did also do childcare, again, in nursing with special need kids and traumatic brain injured children where they were the least of everyone, usually under hospice care. And again, it was just me pouring out my soul in helping them and being as compassionate and showing them mercy with them and their families. Yeah. So, that could all be ways that I was trying to heal myself, or was it God laying down dots for me to get me to where I am now? Yeah. I don't know. I also did go to volunteer in the baby boutique at Line Life Ministries. And that was a big step for me because having like more of a view of children being at conception. Yeah. That's where it begins. Yeah. And so this I could at least help out in the baby boutique and be close enough, but not being like a front line person and not still having my secret, but kind of doing something closer to showing, getting closer to an abortion and life itself. Those are great examples of how we tend to take things into our own hands and say, you know what? Yeah, I'm past this. I'm moving on. When really all we've done is push it down. And then we, as humans, say, hey, let me do these things that make me feel better about myself. Yes. Let me do these things that make me look good. And then I'm past it. And in reality, we're not. No. All we're doing is sometimes harming ourselves even more, or we are setting ourselves up for a future success and we don't even know it. But Joyce, what a story you have so far, and thank you for sharing this with us. We are going to put a pause on this story at the moment, and we are going to continue this story next week. So you can join us next Monday for part 2 of this story, just to see what God is doing in Joyce's life and the change that she is about to encounter in her life. It's such a beautiful story. You're not going to want to miss it. Thank you for tuning in today.
Joyce,
Yes.
thank you for being with
Oh,
us
you
for
bet.
part one.
Yes.
And we hope you
See you
guys
next
have a
week.
great week. See you next week. Be blessed.
And bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of This Is My Story. Hearing these incredible accounts of God's work in our lives reminds us of the enduring power of faith. If you've been moved by these stories, don't forget to subscribe on your preferred podcast platform and on YouTube. And don't forget to share the inspiration with others who might need it. This Is My Story is recorded at Victory Church in the heart of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. You can learn more about This Is My Story and Victory Church in the show notes. Thank you for listening and be blessed.